The camera should have been on the whole time. I just want to let you know, always be rolling. Always be rolling. Please.
I accept responsibility for not starting the cameras early enough.
Steven, you're doing great.
He's phenomenal.
A+.
I think we should thank Steven.
Thank you, Steven.
Thank you, Steven.
You're welcome.
You're awesome.
Yes, you are
And
awesome.
you're very delightful.
You're like a fresh smoothie.
With like strawberries and bananas and like blueberries in it. Maybe mint.
Oh my God. Hold on a
Cinnamon.
second. Hold on a second.
Steven's very excited at this moment. The cameras are rolling. I
Cinnamon.
just want you to know, as a host, it's really important to pay attention to these key moments.
Is it strawberries, bananas, and blueberries?
Yeah.
Look what I bought yesterday.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. This is ridiculous.
We're not making this step up. This was not scripted at all. I just want you to know the synergy in the studio right now is on point. Thank you so much for joining us on the Evolve Your Brand podcast. I'm your host, Ollie Amirkhiz. Just want to give a huge shout out to Icon Industries, Shane ×3, because you love yourself that much. Steven, we love you so much. We named an eel after you. I named an eel after you. And the rest of the crew here, we appreciate all that you do. Without further ado, I have Sharissa Sosa, Mindfulness mentor, joining us. And folks, get ready. This is going to be a phenomenal, just knowledge dump. I'm so excited to have you on because when we talked at the networking event, I was so blown away at what you were talking about. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Are you excited?
I am. So happy to be here.
If the next hour goes as well as the first 20 minutes,
Yo,
they're in for a treat.
let's go.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. You ready?
Oh, after that many takes, I'm definitely ready. So
I think we're warmed up.
we're definitely warmed up. Here's my question for you. So how did you, when you saw yourself as a kid growing up, did you ever imagine you'd be where you're at right now in this space?
No, when I was a kid, what's interesting is I wanted to do 3 things as in kindergarten, they what do you want to be when you grow up? Which is such an unnecessary question for a kindergartner. But I wanted to be 3 things. I wanted to be a nurse because my mom was a nurse and I wanted to help people, right? I wanted to be a police officer because my stand-in grandfather was a police officer. And, he just always talked about helping people. And I wanted to be a teacher because I had an amazing kindergarten teacher and I wanted to teach people and I wanted to help people. And so it's interesting. I wanted to be those 3 things, 3 people I look up to are doing these things. And, I find myself I am a teacher and dropped out of college because I was I saw what was happening and I didn't want to be involved in that. And I am doing what I think my heart always told me I wanted to do.
What was it? You said your mom was a nurse. What was it that stood out for you when it came to her wanting to help people? What do you remember from her childhood? A story that helps understand the impact that made.
Yeah, well, she was so passionate about it. And as a kid, I didn't understand. I actually didn't see her very much because she was working 3 jobs, going to school. But I think later in life, when I got older and I would visit her job to take her to lunch or whatever, even I remember because we were broke and my mom would take me to work because she couldn't get a babysitter or whatever. On the weekends, when she was working on the weekends, I would see her in her element and I was wow, she looks really happy, just helping people and running around and she's really good at it and she just has a lot of heart towards her work and she has a lot of heart for people. And I was I like that. And that's kind of who I am You know, I got that from her, just caring for people and wanting to, I don't know if I got this from my mom, but like, just wanting to beautify the world in whatever way I can, and people that, yeah.
You said you want to beautify the world. When did that become a mission for you or a purpose?
I actually didn't realize it until I was working with like a business coach that was working a lot with my astrology and human design. I don't know if you're familiar with human design at all. So I won't get into it, but basically, like in my astrology, it shows like how my life has been a story of bringing beauty to pain, and beautifying, like even just like my space, you know, like my physical space, and wanting to, yeah, I don't think there was like a moment where like I realized that. I think I've always wanted to help people, and I've always wanted to make the world a better place or inspire people. And I always knew that like my story and all the bullshit I went through, like I always knew there was a deeper purpose for it.
Okay.
I always had that, even though if I didn't know what the manifestation of that purpose was, I always knew like, okay, like I'm being used for something bigger.
How did you process your purpose? Like what were you dealing with inside where you're like, you know, there's more. I'm supposed to do more. Like how did you channel that as you've grown up? You know?
Well, I think like purpose evolves. I don't think there's like one purpose. Like even the work that I do now, like it's going to evolve, but the deeper thing is like, how am I serving?
Okay.
So that has always been really important to me, even before I became a mindfulness mentor. It's like, how am I serving? And knowing that the more that I grow, that is my service to the world, is how I grow.
How come it's important for you to serve? Like seriously, because I mean, think about what's happening in the world right now. You know, I think there's a lot of, you know, me. It's hard to get back sometimes. There's a lot of negativity. It's fed a lot by the media. So how come you're in this, you know, place where that service matters? I think it's fantastic. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Like,
I honestly, it's just really natural. There's something that always is feeding me. Like, what does the world need? What does the world need? What does the world need? And so it's like, okay, if it's, you know, an Instagram story, a course, a program, you know, this, like, what does the world need? And so, you know, that's just kind of like the question that's always calling me, is what does the world need? And I don't know, it's like if you're not helping the people around you, whether it's a couple bucks to a homeless person, or creating a course, or, you know, my meditation practice every day is of service to everybody around me. And I know that for me, there's something called like people who are internal and people who are external. And external people thrive. What moves them into action is their impact on humanity. Internal people thrive on the impact on themselves. And that's just, there's two types of people, and there's no right or wrong way to be. It's just that's how you're wired. And so I really when it comes to like doing hard things or doing whatever, I thrive on like how it's going to impact other people.
so it's external.
It's like I'm external.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who are internal. For example, an external person also does not get energy from looking at their past. An internal does. An internal looks at their past and says like, fuck yeah, I did that. And like, look who I became, and da-da-da. And I do have pieces of that for sure, but I don't get energy from looking at the past. I get energy looking at the future. I get energy from like okay, this moment right now, if it's painful, if it's whatever, what does my future 5 years, 10 years down the line have to say about that? I get energy from my future self and like from the future and from like how I impact the people around me. So like learning that has been really helpful and it really resonated with me.
Well, kudos to you. I think, the service to others, it's what a worthy cause. I think there's more of that from a parenting perspective that I'm working on, teaching the boys. I just think we need more of that. And it starts when you're young. You picked it up from your mom.
Yeah.
It's funny how that works out.
That's cool.
Let's talk about, you mentioned something about pain, beauty to pain, what led you, like what pain have you experienced that led you to this moment where you're at, where you're like, I'm going to serve others and share my life experiences, how I've dealt with this and help others be able to, get their life on track, get their journey back on track?
Yeah, so I think I'll go back to when I was 21. And I didn't have a mindfulness training yet or anything, but there was just like a deep sense of like, this suffering is going to have a purpose. And then I'll jump to another story that was 2020. So when I was 21, I was left at a bar by people who I thought were my friends, and I was already like beyond at that point, and they left me alone. Long story short, I was raped and I contracted an STD, and it wasn't the rape that caused like the shame and the depression. It was the STD that caused the shame and the depression. And I couldn't even, and I felt guilty. Like I felt had so much guilt. And honestly, it wasn't until recently, like last year, where I let go of that guilt. And I'm 33 now. So I was holding on to that subconsciously without even realizing it. Anyways, I knew that, okay, how I feel about myself right now, this hatred that I have for myself, I have to learn how to love myself, because I know this is going to be a really powerful fucking story that somebody's going to need. And I've shared like the details of my trajectory of my self-adoration for myself, self-love for myself, the self-respect that I have for I've shared it with young girls, and it has like, it's like wild. And the impact that story has on people, but specifically in the spaces where I get to share it with somebody who really needs it. And so I just knew deep down inside, like there's a reason for this, and I'm going to share my story one day. So I got to get to work.
When was this?
When I was 21.
Really?
So I wasn't reading books at that time. I wasn't,
okay.
But I was like, I'm going to look in the mirror and just like say, I love you. And that's where I started. Even though I didn't feel it, I was like, I'm going to look in the mirror and say, I love you. So I knew there was something deeper, that there was a reason for that. I was like, this didn't just happen just because like, God is using me, or my story needs to be shared, and I'm going to create beauty. I didn't realize it, but looking back, it's like, I'm going to create beauty from this pain. And I did. And 2019, the fall of 2019, I started going to therapy. I was navigating a lot of anger that was unexpressed in my childhood, and a lot of resentment that was unexpressed in my childhood. And so I was in and out of depression. The day after Thanksgiving, we were at my Theo's house, my uncle's house. Everybody was there. And I had a little chat with my mom, and it really triggered me the way she responded to the conversation we were having. And she walked away. I walked away. I ran into the room. My uncle was there. And I was just like bawling. I was just like, there was so much rage. And I kind of started exploding. And I was meditating. I've been meditating for 10 years, but I didn't have any like formal training. And I was expressing myself to him, and I started punching the bed, and then I started attacking the wall. And everybody was like in the living room. And I ended up with, my hand was purple. It was like the size of a balloon. And my sassy ass, I like had my mom like rub cream on it because it's kind of like, look what you've done. Like I was like, yeah, I was like not healthy at all. I went to the ER and everything. I had what they call a boxer's fracture. And
you were hitting the wall with that level of force.
Yeah, with that level of rage. Just not knowing what to do with it.
When you woke up, do you recall the moment where you snapped back into it? That day, where you became aware?
I wasn't aware.
Yeah, I know. Like, when did you finally realize, like, what happened?
What I finally realized what happened was when I experienced rage recently and saw the difference of my reaction to that rage.
Okay.
And it was actually, I would say, bigger than the rage I had that day.
Shit.
And so here's the major difference. Okay. And then I want to go back to that time because that was where I pivoted. That's where my life pivoted and I started taking trainings and everything. But to show you the black and white difference, I was dating a guy long distance for almost a year. And then I found out that he had a girlfriend the entire time we were talking. And this is somebody we were friends for like 10 years. And like I trusted, right? And I don't date very often. So it's like special when I spend my time like that with someone. So I had a rage, I wanted to ruin his fucking life, bro. Like I was so mad. I have zero tolerance for lying, betraying anything. And there were 2 moments specifically where I let myself experience the fullness of my rage. And this is where like, I think emotional intelligence in like the entrepreneurial community is missing this, is like, it's not feel the pain and do it anyways, or like move on or whatever. It's like, actually like, what's your ability to actually like be with life, like be with the life that's unfolding in front of you and inside of you? And can you be with it without judging? Can you be with it without trying to control it even? So the difference in what happened was, we have a lot of mutual friends. And the first time, so going back 2 times that I experienced the difference in the rage, I knew he was going to be at an event that I was going to. And he had just like posted his girlfriend online. Same girl. She knew everything. And I was lit up. I was like so mad. And I was in a hotel and I went into a rage that night. And here's the difference. I was throwing a fit like an adult toddler. Okay, so I was like on the floor, like punching the bed. Like I was just letting myself like fully be expressed. And I actually captured some of it on my phone because it was so wild. I was just like a wild animal. Like I was just like, it was wild. And I was looking in front of this giant mirror and I wanted to punch the mirror so bad. So bad. I literally like my hands kept contracting and I was breathing and I was like, I just want to hit this fucking mirror. I'm so mad. And I was just with that moment. I was just with it. I was feeling the heat. Like my chest was on fire. My body was on fire. My mind was actually, the moment that I was actually able to be with the pain and I was like, my fists were doing this. I was breathing. There was no thoughts. I was just with all of the rage, not pushing it away, not wishing it were different, not saying you don't belong, like understanding like the anger belongs. And it was such a huge release. Anger gets a bad rap because people react to it. But anger on its own is not a bad thing. Anger is usually well placed. but it's how we respond and how we react to it. So 2 nights after, I have to be around him. I see him talking to this girl, knowing he has a girlfriend. And I just can't take it. I can't take it. I almost I thought I was going to lose it. And I had to walk outside. I told my friend, I was like, I'm about to lose. I need to walk outside. I walked outside. That same desire to there was this huge rock wall rock wall next to me when I was outside. And the same thing, I wanted to hit it so bad, right? And something overcame me where it was meditators a lot of time will talk about being meditated, where you're not trying to meditate, but it's just happening. And I was so with the anger. I was really breathing through it. And my friend was right there. And I even in that first moment where I went into a rage, I went back into an old mind where I wanted to physically hurt myself. And that was old Sharissa, pre-mindfulness training. And I saw that thought, I literally I was I want to cut myself. And I saw that thought, I was whoa. So there was no more, I wasn't buying into the thought anymore, saying okay, this is what's next. This is how I express my pain. I was wow, my mind is actually expressing, all that means is there's a lot of pain. My mind was expressing the pain. So I've learned how to see myself as a process and knowing that when I'm hearing things, when I'm feeling things, it's just a barometer telling me what's going on. It's not happening to me. I don't need to react to those thoughts. And, the difference of that too is when my dog passed away 2 years ago, I had mental images of driving into a tree. And I knew that it didn't mean that I'm supposed to drive into a tree. That's just a reflection of the pain. And with bipolar disorder, most people who commit suicide have bipolar disorder because their mind just has this extreme reaction to their emotions. And a lot of people just aren't being trained how to respond to their emotions, how to respond to their thoughts, right? A lot of my stuff comes through mental images. And so learning how to realize actually my mind is just showing me what's there. This is not happening to me. I get to observe it. So those were 2 moments where I wanted to punch the mirror and I wanted to punch the wall, where realizing that I didn't have to in order to still feel fully expressed. Whereas before, I would literally hurt myself to feel fully expressed. And today, not being on medication for 2 years and going through these extremes of the rage up and down, it was a wild ride. And it taught me so much. And in certain moments where I would kind of feel stuck in the pain, I would like I talked about before, look at it from the future and be okay, and now I can see why all of it needed to happen, because I needed to learn how to be with the fullness of my humanity. So the depression, the anger, the rage, whatever, all of it. And the rage really taught me how to be with my humanity, the thoughts I was having. Learning how to just accept myself as a process and accept the fullness of my humanity, accept the unhappiness and be with all of it and love myself through it and not wish that it was different, not push the pain away.
How did you go about processing things differently? What was the most challenging step to being able to process things where it served you?
The first thing that comes to mind is meditation.
Okay.
Because, and this is actually a perfect, going back to 2020, 2019, 2020. So I'm going to answer this question with a story. So that happened Thanksgiving, right? The punching the wall. January, I go back into a depression. I find myself at the end of a bottle of whiskey at my best friend's house, and I had just finished like punching her floor, and I told her, I looked at her, I was like, I wanna see blood, is like what I said to her. Like I wanted to hurt myself. And I went and I was leading a women's self-love and mindfulness retreat a month later. So I had to get it together. And then shortly after that, like a month or two later, I was on a trail run in broad daylight and I was attacked at gunpoint. Broad daylight, attacked at gunpoint. And I was also living in La Mesa at the time. And so this is 2020, there were riots happening all around me. I had just been diagnosed bipolar. I just decided I was like resisting medication. And there was just so much chaos, like the depression, the trauma of the attack, like being scared everywhere I go. And I knew that's when I went like deeper into my practice. Like I have to meditate longer. And I had the time. It's like, I'm gonna work up to an hour a day. And so I started with 10 minutes and then I would add like 5 minutes each day. And so to answer your question, it was like learning how to be still when like being still is like the last thing I want to do. But I knew that that would teach me. So how did I learn to process? I learned to like be with all of that. Because when you're meditating, like it's going to show you what you don't want to see. Not even, I was going to say at first, but not even at first, like still. It's going to show me what I'm pushing down. And so learning how to sit longer, which, I'm more interested now. And when I train people, I'm not interested in, when I coach people, they're meditating 10 minutes a day. They're not meditating for an hour. I don't even meditate for an hour now a day. But at that time, that's the medicine that I knew was calling me. And then fast forward later that year, I go into a 6-month mindfulness teacher training. Then the year after, I go to the level 2, which is a year-long training plus a practicum. It's like super intense. And that taught me the skills. It was like to be with all of that and different strategies and how to turn towards the pain, how to turn away from the pain skillfully. And so it was like just a couple months of like some fucked up shit that I was like, I gotta learn how to be still.
What was the hardest part about being still?
My mind. And I think just like there was a sense that like the hardest part was being still was like at that time, like I didn't even want to be alive. I was like, this hurts so much. I don't want to fucking be here. Like, is it worth it? Like really asking myself those questions. Like, is it worth it for me to be here? The only reason I didn't end my life is because I love my family and I don't want to do that to them. But I didn't really care about me. Mm. And I just didn't want to be in pain anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's what's different. It's like now it's like I can be with it.
Grateful you're here.
Thanks.
First and foremost, and it's a real thing. When you look at mental well-being, I'll call it. It's a conversation that needs to be had more often. Yeah. Like there's. I think 2 years ago, I wouldn't have had this conversation, been this open and said, hey, it's a legit thing. And there's a lot happening. We're busier than ever before. There's more information. Life is hectic. And it's like, if we never give our minds a break, when do we actually have time to think about clearly what we want?
So it's giving your mind a break, but it's also, can you be with your mind when it's not taking a break? Like, can you be with the distractions? Can you be with the busyness?
Yeah. It's difficult. I think you talk about the monkey mind, and I'm a huge Jay Shetty guy, and it's unbelievable to me the discipline that it takes to sit there for an hour. Because like for me, I'm always on the go. I can't just imagine. And I know it takes a huge level of discipline. It's like, I think it's well worth it. What was it like? What did you learn about yourself when you got to the point where you were meditating for 60 minutes?
What did I learn about myself when I was meditating for 60 minutes? I learned that like I can be with myself. Like I can accept all of it.
How's that different than before?
I just wanted to push the pain away. No more pain. Who wants pain? Of course we would want to escape the pain.
Pain is painful.
But it doesn't have to be. My teacher says pain without, basically, are you familiar with the term equanimity?
Mm-hmm.
So pain multiplied by resistance equals suffering. Pain multiplied by equanimity equals happiness. So our ability to, and you don't have to like it to accept it. But if you can bring equanimity to the pain, which equanimity, for people who might not be familiar with that term, is like the okayness of it all. That is always available. Even when it seems impossible, it's always available. Always, always available. And it doesn't mean that, you have to get rid of the pain. It means you have to learn how to be with the pain.
What kind of questions does one ask themselves to be with the pain? Like, what is it that you're going through? You had talked about looking at yourself from an outsider's point of view, and having compassion for yourself. Is that what you're referencing?
I think compassion is a big one. I think looking at it from the future is really helpful. So a question I would say for people is like, okay, this future me that's overcome this, it's like so way beyond this. The future me 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 6 months from now, whatever, you can sense what gives you the most energy when you think about this future version of yourself. Okay, they already know the path out. What do they have to say about this? Another thing I like to ask is this voice of love and compassion. What is this voice of love and compassion? Or you can say the voice of God. What does the voice of love, compassion, God have to say about me right now? About this moment in my life right now? Another question I'll ask when I do a self-compassion practice when I find myself like bumping up against resistance of anything. And I can go through that process really quick, but one thing that's really important in that is when I find myself meeting a challenging emotion, I'll ask myself, can I be with this? Just can I be with this? And so you go from like, fuck this to like, yes, this.
And how many months did it take you before you got to 60 minutes?
I have no idea.
No.
I have no concept of time. I don't know.
That's
how long
amazing.
It took me.
Yeah, because I think one of the most challenging things, when you're in this meditative state, and I've only achieved it a few times. Like it takes time. It's like you shut out the world. Like you don't hear any noise. Like it's just you and your mind.
Yeah, and you're like so awake.
Yeah. It's like you can feel every part of your body. It's crazy.
Yeah. And there's like the beauty of nothing.
And what made you decide, okay, you've gone through all of life, you've learned how to process the pain and be at peace and have clarity. What made you decide, hey, I'm going to help others with this? So what does that look like for you now?
So it happened very naturally.
Okay.
Like it happened very synchronistically where the trainer Juliana Ray, who's been a good friend of mine who I met through other mentors that I had. And she was like a guest on what's it called? Like, when you bring two minds together as one.
Mastermind?
Mastermind. She was a guest on like a mastermind, and she was a coach of a mentor that I had. And we developed a friendship because I was friends with my mentor. And she is the head. She creates the courses for all of these trainings. And she saw I was going through something, and she was like, hey, maybe you can like, first it started off with like being kind of on the support team in some way. And then it became like, hey, you should, like, I want to invite you into this course. And so I took the 6-month course, and then it was like, hey, there's a level 2. And there's only 2 levels, but hey, there's a level 2. It's a year long. It's a big commitment, time, money, energy. But I think you'd be a great fit. So then I took that.
How come? How come she thought you, I mean, have you spoken with her? Like, what is it that she saw in you that said, obviously, you're talented? It's like, what was it that made her think that you could make an impact on other people?
She saw that I was doing the work.
Okay.
And just like how.
Funny how that works out, right?
Right? And just how I was like writing, on social. And she lives in LA. So like when I'd be in LA, we'd meet up, for lunch or whatever. But she saw like how I was expressing the beauty of my pain.
Mm-hmm.
She saw how I was able to discover non-attachment, how I was able to be with the attachment, like when I am attached, like how I can be with that. She was able to like see that I was like actually using, like I was actually practicing. I was actually like walking the talk. I was actually meditating every day, and not just meditating every day. And this is why, like, I don't say like, oh, I teach people how to meditate. Like I really teach people how to bring mindfulness practices into their everyday life so that life actually starts to change. Because you can meet people who meditate an hour a day for 10 years and they're still dicks. They're still like reactive. They're still like unkind, It's like, okay, well, what? That doesn't make no sense. But when you learn practices to actually apply it to your life, and I was actually like applying the shit to my life, I was actually doing it.
How come it doesn't make any sense? You said they're still unhappy and they take that unhappiness and put it onto the world, and I can relate with that. Like I think we all do it, and then you have time to reflect, and you're like, "What was I thinking?" Asshole I was at that moment.
Right.
What makes your way better? Like, who could benefit from this? I think everyone, but who are the people that you see that are stressed out the most? Because you said there's like 3, main objectives that you have. So who do you notice that needs your help, your coaching, your
High-level
mentorship?
entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
and parents.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about that. This is parents. Okay. Where are you going with that? How come parents?
I mean, how often are you challenged by your children? Consistently.
Parenting, I would say, like, I used to think, like, work is hard. Parenting is like, whoa.
Right. So mindfulness, meditation teaches you how to be with life, how to be with those moments of friction, how to be in relationship without reacting. I'm not a parent, but I have a lot of friends who are parents, clients that are parents, students that are parents. And I see my parents, with their, in the best of their ability, like the lack of mindfulness. And I just like, wow, I dream of a day where parents are equipped with the tools to be with their kids and with more presence and embody that presence so that they don't have to like teach their children with words. They can teach them with who they are.
Bam. Fire.
Like imagine.
Truth. As a parent, man, I wish I needed parent training. Like seriously, parent training is awesome. I want to give a shout out to my boy Zeke. Zeke does training. We've been going with the boys, working out. Trevor and Luke are so much better. I'm like, are you guys enjoying this? They're like, we're learning how to work out with a personal trainer. Best thing ever. And they're all into it. So it's like, why not get mentors early on? Like, are you doing family? Like, will you do a family meditation? Have you had anyone approach you about that?
I have actually.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, so it wasn't family, but
Let's
it was
go.
for his two boys. Yeah, one's in middle school, one's in high school. And yeah, we had many sessions together.
Okay.
They want to continue training. It was really beautiful. So many adults, and this is because people are getting their meditation training from YouTube and shit, and it doesn't teach you any, like, okay, so I'm a spiritual girl. I'm all about, like, yeah, you can do the meditations with, like, the light coming down and whatever. It's cool. I mean, I know I sound really sarcastic, but, like, there's value in that. But the meditation that actually teaches you skills is, like, and this is just, I'm biased because it's my training, but unified mindfulness, the techniques are guided to teach you how to relate to your inner life and your outer life in a way with less friction. So everything we experience in life happens under three senses: what we see, what we hear, what we feel. That's it. So we can have an inner and an outer experience of all those three senses. What we feel on the inside, like our emotions, what we feel, like the texture of our skin, what we hear in our outer environment, what we hear in our mind, and what we see in our mind and what we see in our outer environment. So if we can put everything we experience under those three categories, and life is just happening outside of you, you are a process through which life is happening, then there's so much less friction. I'll give you a perfect example. So it was only our second training session with these two young boys. And I think you actually know the son of these two boys. I'll tell you later. I don't want to like name drop, but he's really well known, super successful guy. And anyways, I was training so we were in their living room, and you know those like automatic doors that have like electronical locks, right? We were meditating, it kept kind of like going off. So I asked the one in middle school, I was like, what was that like for you, being with the distraction? And he was like, and I just like, I wish like more adults could understand this. And I was so blown away that after just the second, I mean, I still get blown away even though it's like my life and I teach it and it's like so automatic, but how simple it is to pick up. I was like, well, what was that like meditating with that distraction? He was like, well, it's not really he's like you said, and like nothing really is a distraction because all of it falls under one of those senses. So I get to focus on it or focus away from it. And so he focused away from it. And he used one of those other three senses. So what you see, what you hear, what you feel, right? So if you're hearing something in your environment or in your mind, you can focus. There's two ways. You can turn towards it or turn against it for more equanimity, for more okayness. He turned away from it. And I think what he did in the moment, he was meditating with his eyes open and he focused out. And so he was like, nothing's really a distraction. And so many people, adults, tell me I can't meditate because I'm so distracted. It's like, I have compassion for that. I know I just said it really sassy, but I have compassion for that. At the same time, it's like, just understand, like nothing is a distraction because you can use all of it. You can turn away from it. You can turn towards it.
Okay. So, well, let's talk about distraction, and do you think the world is right now set up for us to be distracted so we can't pay attention?
Yeah. Yes.
How come, in your opinion, it's set up? Like, what do you think it is?
Technology, advertisements, politics, notifications. We're addicted. And so it's like, it's supporting this addiction to being unconscious.
Say it again.
It's supporting our addiction to being unconscious.
It's crazy. And they're doing it. We're doing it younger and younger to kids. You know, it's happening early and earlier. You know, I look at my kids and how much time they spend being distracted. It's crazy.
I see it in my siblings too. They're all way younger than me. 2 in high school, 1 in middle school. And I see it too. And I think the more that we can embody presence on our own, we don't have to teach with our words. We can teach by example.
When you talk about these, like, the one of the 2 boys, how old was he?
One's in middle school, one's in high school.
Okay, the one, it was in middle school,
Yeah.
right? So he's probably, let's say, 10, 11, 12, or 13.
I think he's 13.
Okay,
yeah.
what a cool
Dude.
skill set to have, which is you know how to process and actually be able to have control over your, you know, or at least be aware of, see, feel,
Yeah.
and hear.
Are you kidding me? Like,
It's awesome.
yeah. So it's
Like, how come they don't teach that stuff in school? Like, that's what I want to know. Like,
they want us to be distracted.
Well, and exactly my point. That's the funniest thing. Like, some of the fundamental tools, I think, you know, and I used to have the attitude that I thought meditation, spirituality, manifestation was mumbo jumbo.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wait a minute. Then you start like paying attention.
Like, it's actually everything.
It's everything. It's everything. Because all of the successful people that I meet, they really, really know how to have peace internally. And I'm not saying it's not chaotic. It is chaotic. And
Yeah.
everyone has a bad day. Like, that's what you're signing up for.
Right.
Nobody that's successful that I know that signed up of like, oh, I expect to be off by 2 or 3. It's like, no, this is what I signed up for. I love it. But I also know how to bring my mental peace and awareness. So it's like on days where I don't meditate, I don't feel myself. It's weird. I don't feel like myself. Like, part of me is missing because you don't get that focus to say like, holy shit, you know, how did this go? It's just, you come up with some of the best ideas when you have just quiet.
Tell me more about that.
Reflection, you know, to me, having perspective and reflection has really helped me understand the true meaning of life for me, you know. And I think a lot of us, you know, I look back at how I grew up in the Persian culture. It's very natural for your parents to dictate what you're going to do for a living, like pretty much that's what the culture is for the most part. I'm approaching it differently with my boys. It's like, what do you want? Like really think about what you want in life, you know. And I think the earlier we start really getting curious about our kids, getting to know their true self, giving them these tools, you know. It's not easy for a 17 and a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old to sit there and listen to meditation and sit still for 5 minutes. I think that's the whole point of doing it, though. You know, is if you don't have time for it, that's exactly the reason you got to do it. You know, I look at like running. I got away from running. It's probably one of the worst things that I've done, not feeling happy. And I'm like, dude, I'm going to go running. Like, is the easiest solution. This is good. This is when I was the happiest. Just freaking do it. So now I have a very different, I used to look at, okay, the money side of coaching. And now I look at the peace and the happiness and the tranquility that you get by having some guidance. Because instead of spinning your wheels and thinking you can get every answer on YouTube, you actually have someone that's guiding you and coaching you along. And you don't need it forever. You know, if you become the better version of yourself and you want to do it forever, keep doing it. You know, I say whatever makes you happier, dial in on that. And I don't know when this became a podcast about me, but I just, it's really, I think, fantastic that you're also focused on parents. You know, the entrepreneur stuff is great, but that's our profession. It's the family that makes all the difference.
Yeah. So the reason I say like the people who I feel like need it the most are entrepreneurs, high level entrepreneurs and parents is because those are the people that are most stressed. So if I can equip the people who are most stressed to be with their stress, what if you don't have to slow down to have more peace? What if you just have the right tools to be with the chaos? So like that moment when he said that about the distractions, oh my God, I lit up. I was like,
oh, I bet.
I lit
Fire.
up. And when he said like, there's no distractions, I was like, fuck yeah. And that turned into a teaching moment where I brought it back to our emotions, how our emotions don't have to be a distraction, right? It's all it is something that you're feeling. It's a sensory experience. So if you can observe yourself, right? If he can observe that ticking of the door in the same way where he can train himself to observe his emotions, now with that stillness, he has so much power.
Yeah.
Because he's not letting that ticking of the door or that emotional anger pull him in. Now he has control. This is mindfulness training.
What have the parents giving you feedback? Like how they've said the boys have done?
Oh, it's game changer.
Really?
Yeah.
Give me some of what have they told you? The parents.
Well,
like some of the words that they've used. Yeah. I'm just curious.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say like boys, especially boys, especially younger boys, are very short with their words.
Yeah.
They're not very expressive.
Get out.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And I know.
How's your day? Good.
Right.
What was good about it? Good.
Right. It's good. Yeah, I know.
Good.
I have a teenage brother. I know all about that.
Good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. I know all about that. So, but what they do say is that they actually look forward to their meditation. So I started them on 1 minute a day.
Perfect. Let's give a tip. So I want us to get my kids started on meditating. Where should they start? 1 minute a day for how long?
So 1 minute a day. We did that for about 3 weeks. I asked them what they can commit to.
Nice.
So can you commit to like, I think I said 3 days a week or 5 days a week. And they said 5 days a week. Like, okay, 1 minute a day, 5 days a week, like, back to the basics. When are you going to do it? Where are you going to do it? If you're going to start with the meditation practice, how to build, like we talk about any habit, right? Like habit stacking, right? All of that. But when you meditate and you're building a meditation practice, you want to do it in the same place every day and the same time every day. And so if you can stack that with another habit like journaling or reading, awesome. So we did 1 minute a day for I think 3 to 4 weeks. And then we bumped up to 5 minutes a day. They volunteered to do 5 minutes a day.
Nice.
And then 10 minutes a day. So you really I think one thing about this specific technique and also just me as a teacher is I meet people where they're at and I'm not going to rush you into anything. But if you can have 1 minute a day, like somebody was telling me oh, I meditated for an hour yesterday. And sometimes I want to roll my eyes when people say that because I don't give a fuck if you meditated for an hour today. I give a fuck about, are you meditating 10 minutes every day, most days, for the rest of your life? Are you committed to the regular training, the regular practice? Are you using moments in traffic when you're frustrated, moments with your kids are you using that as meditation? That's what I give a fuck about. I don't give a fuck if you meditated for an hour a day. It's quality over quantity.
Yeah.
And are you using these moments that life is pulling you in to pay attention? Are you using those moments to practice?
And what are, as you talk to most people, what does meditation look like for them? Is it just a matter of just sitting still and they think that's meditation? Or is it the true going in and digging into yourself?
You don't have to dig into yourself.
You don't?
No.
Okay.
No.
You just sit there.
You just sit there. So going back to see, hear, feel, right? You have what's beautiful about this range of techniques is you can focus on whatever. So I can change my meditation technique at any moment. Like one of my favorite practices is called do nothing, where your attention isn't on anything, which is hard to do. I used to hate it. It was when I was in my like year-long training.
Oh, that sounds miserable.
Yeah, I hated it. It was my least favorite. It was my least favorite technique. I was like, fuck this technique. It's hard.
Sounds horrible.
Yeah. And I only, in our training, even just in the training, I only had to do it 10 minutes a day for a couple of weeks. And I was, for a month, yeah, every technique was a month. And I was like, fuck this technique. It's hard. I don't get it. I don't understand it. And now it's my favorite. It's my go-to. But sometimes when it's hard for me to just like, basically it's, to explain it in the most simplest way, it's like, imagine you have your attention on this brown table, okay? Your attention is on the brown table, and now you just release your attention from it. Your attention gets pulled to that airplane. Now you release your attention to it, and your attention is on nothing. And you're just like allowing everything to happen. That's fucking hard. It's my favorite practice now. But sometimes when I go into practice and I try the do nothing practice, it's hard. So that I can just switch techniques. It's not a big deal. I can just be with whatever's in the moment. So then I'll focus on what my second favorite is feel out, just like feeling my body. And I think you have to learn how to be with thinking, but when it comes to meditation practice and how I teach my students, it's like how to be with your sensory experience, because that's what life is. That sets you up for life.
One big sensory experience.
Yeah.
That's nonstop.
Right.
Always.
Yeah. And you can put it in any category. See, hear, feel. It becomes so much more simple when you look at it that way.
So as we wrap up, who is it that you want to thank? Who are the people that make your life better, that put a smile on your face? Who would you like to thank as we wrap up?
Who are the people I would like to thank? For sure my mom, for like showing me a life of like service and love. My two best friends. I have some really close friends, so these are the two people that come to mind. So no offense on anybody. But Jesse Wright and Eric Gilman, who have like seen me over the last 10 years of all these ups and downs that I've shared with you, and have accepted me through all of it, and watched my growth, and like saw me as like a chaotic bitch that would just like say whatever the fuck she wanted and like cause chaos. And now like being who I am, being with like people who were with me in that depression, and seeing me now, or people who are willing to be with me in my growth. Juliana Ray for being my friend and my mentor, and myself for being willing to do the work and do the hard things.
It was wonderful getting to know you better.
Yeah, thank you.
This is awesome.
So much fun.
Did you have fun?
I had so much fun.
What was the best part for you? Besides all the freaking laughs.
So much laughter. I think just drawing out the lessons in the story, and like I think we made the mindfulness thing like really simple and like understandable and relatable.
Yeah. And we'll definitely put all your contact information. I just think that this is a wonderful way to contribute to our community and give back. And hey, you can't go wrong by helping people find peace and happiness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What a cool service.
Thank you so much.